Welcome to the Growth Plus Exit podcast, where owners of privately held middle market companies talk about founding, scaling, and exiting their businesses successfully. Learn how to maximize and monetize your business on your own terms. Let's get started.
Hello, I'm Heather Bennett, your co-host for Growth Plus Exit, the podcast featuring middle market owners and experts talking about founding, scaling, and exiting their businesses successfully. Past guests of the show include Doug Tatum, founder of Tatum Financial, Dan Lawrence, the co-founder and CEO of OBM Inc., and Allison Cummins, the founder of Blue Outcomes. This episode is brought to you by Newport LLC, a team of seasoned C-suite executives who help CEOs of privately held companies grow, de-risk, and exit their businesses successfully. Go to newportllc.com on our website or find us on LinkedIn to learn more and to connect with us. Before introducing today's guest, I want to thank Kevin Poole for introducing me to Whitney. You can check out his website at newportllc.com, as Kevin is the CEO of Newport and a very trusted advisor to his clients. So thank you, Kevin. Very much appreciate the introduction. Whitney Opperman serves as the general manager of Opperman Son, a position that she's held since June 2013. She's had previous roles, including the sales manager and inside sales. She is the fifth generation to work in this business. And just a little bit about the business. Opperman Son is a family-owned dealership that was established in 1964. It's committed to quality, service, and integrity, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. Opperman Son handles complete trucking needs, and this is in Northern California, including quality used and new truck parts, trailer sales, financing, pretty much soup to nuts, new trucks, everything, used parts, a body shop, welding shop, everything, which is really a unique thing in this industry. Additionally, Whitney was the proprietor of Bricks Farm and Vineyard from 2015 to December 2018, and she obtained her Bachelor of Science in Business from the School of Business at Sonoma State University. Whitney, welcome to the show. I am so glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Heather.
Yeah, let's get right into it. Tell me about your company, and being fifth generation, I would love to hear the story of how your company was formed and how you became a part of it.
Yeah, excellent. So I am fourth generation to the company. So the company was founded in 1964 by my great-grandfather and my grandfather and his brother. So David Sr., David Jr., and Steve Opperman. And so originally we had you can actually see it behind me. So Pacheco Pass down in the Gilroy, California area, we had a mechanic shop. And then they got into logging here on the coast of California, on the north coast of California. And that just naturally progressed into starting to repair logging trucks. Then we were selling log trucks, and then grew and added our offerings. And now we have a body shop with a paint booth. We have a welding shop that we can do fabrication on all different makes, models of tankers. We are R-stamped, so that means we can work on aluminum trailers. And we also have a full mechanic shop, parts, and then sales is our core business. So buying and selling used trucks, trailers, tanks, and then we also sell new trailers as well. So new tankers for the petroleum, chemicals, food industries.
Excellent. So being fourth generation, how did you become part of the business?
So I grew up watching my father work so hard. My father and his two brothers, my uncles David and Brian, they dedicated so much of their time, energy, life to this business, growing it, making it into what it is today. So I always thought I would probably join to carry on that legacy. It was always in the back of my head. I spent summers and holiday breaks here doing a lot of admin work, filing, answering phones. And it's just a really nice industry, a great group of people. So I was working in the wine industry, like you mentioned, after college, and it's one of the things that the owners have said, that if you want to join the business as a family member, you need to have a college degree and 2 years work experience elsewhere. So being in Sonoma County, wine was just a natural fit. So I got my degree in business with an emphasis in wine. And so I was working in the wine industry, and you don't make any money in the wine industry, at least I didn't. So it was a great job post-college, but it came time where it was, what is next? What is the long term? And the opportunity came up for me to get involved on the new equipment side. So we were about a year into selling new tanks and trailers, and our GM at the time had asked if I was interested in taking on a larger role in that part of the business as we were trying to scale it. So it was a perfect way for me to come in and learn the product and learn more about sales, meet more customers. So yeah, I was happy to jump at the opportunity and be able to carry on the legacy that previous family members and previous team members had built.
That's great to hear. So when you like doing that process, you're joining the family business, you're learning, what did the ramp up look like? Like, how long did it take until you felt you really knew the business and could really start meeting the customer? And like any ideas of like how to make that go smoother? Because I know we have a lot of listeners who have family businesses, and they're thinking about the next generation and how to help them be successful as they join. So what did that process look like? Because it seems like it worked very well for you.
Excellent. Great question, Heather. Yes, it was a fairly significant ramp up, having no experience in the actual equipment of this world. Like I had said, answering phones, filing paperwork, doing more administrative duties, that's fairly plug and play, but coming in and having to learn the product and really understanding how things worked and what fit certain applications and what didn't, systems, discharge systems. I mean, just all the terminology that I had to learn a whole new vocabulary, right? So it was a fairly significant learning curve that had to be that I had to do. But you know what? We say this when we hire new salespeople too. Once you have a solid understanding of the product, it's easy to start building on that, right? You're never going to be an expert. We have a lot of very knowledgeable people. We have team members who have been here for over 50 years, who came here out of high school and have grown in the business. We have, a lot of tenured, knowledgeable team members. So I was lucky to be able to lean on them. Also, many industry people who took me under their wing, answered my questions. So, I would just say, for anyone who is coming into a new industry, having to learn, be patient, give yourself some grace, right? And also ask questions. I am a big believer that there is not no such thing as a stupid question, right? Because if you don't know, you don't know, right? So the only way you're going to learn is to ask questions and be a little bit vulnerable. And then meeting customers who were very patient with me as I learned, and I just told them, I'm new to the industry. I'm still learning. I don't know everything. If I don't know, I can come back to you and I'll get an answer and get back to you on it. But so it probably was I would say at least a year before I was really comfortable talking about equipment. And just slowly growing on that knowledge, right? Building on it over time.
Yeah, it sounds like it's worth it for the family to invest in you learning, and that it's definitely paid off. So having some, like you said, grace done for yourself, and then maybe for the family to understand it's going to take time to ramp up, but then the long term, it's worth it for sure. That's a really good point to make. So what have been some of the turning points since you've joined the company that you've noticed?
In the industry or in the company?
In the company.
So we've had quite a bit of change. So part of bringing on Newport was because we are doing succession planning, right, there's quite a bit of transition. So not only within having to navigate some of the industry pivots, right, with governmental regulations, we're also having to navigate what that third to fourth generation transition looks like, right? So we have 3 owners now. Who is going to be involved in the fourth generation? And again, how do we continue to be successful for another 60 years? So I would say navigating some of that has been a little trickier, and it just takes a long time, right? You have to be very thoughtful. And the goal is to continue the business and to continue making it successful and growing. And so that's probably been the biggest challenge, obstacle that we've had to navigate. So as my dad especially steps back, we had one other owner retire. And yeah, it's just been, we're having to be very thoughtful in how we do that, right? How we transition.
Excellent. No, that's a really good point, and it's common with family-owned businesses. How do you handle those succession discussions? Any advice on that? How like to start the discussion, or how to broach the subject and maybe start like planning that you have? Any advice would be great to hear.
I would say start earlier than you think, because it does take a while. Be patient with the process. There's a lot of emotion involved in it, especially for those members that are leaving the company, right, as they retire. For a lot of them, especially I could say that for my family, this is part of their identity, right? They spent most of their lives here, driving here, working in this industry. The customers are like friends. The team members are like family, right? So there's a lot of emotion there. And what does that next step look like? And how do I not come here every single day anymore? And then even communicating, right? I would say communication is so critical. Having honest, open conversations, over communicating, and just being thoughtful and how that looks, right? That it is not at least for us, it was not an easy, it wasn't an easy transition. There was a lot of questions that needed to be answered, a lot of gray area. So but we're finally over the hump, but it took a while.
No, this is great advice. I really appreciate you sharing, because so many other people are going through this, and just to be able to hear like what they need to be, how to approach it, is really valuable. Thank you. So what's your vision for the company going forward?
I think that's a great question. I'm lucky to have a really good team around me. So that has been helpful in figuring out what is possible, right? What can we do? Again, I mentioned governmental regulations that, some of the EV electric vehicle and that whole movement is going to affect our industry. I think people underestimate what these diesel-powered vehicles do to help the world go round, right? So I know I'd mentioned that to you earlier, that without diesel-generated trucks, goods don't get shipped, right? So it's really important to approach it in a very thoughtful way where we don't stop growth, right? So, I would say the petroleum industry is probably going to be the most affected with some of these shorter term in the next decade changes. So just making sure that we don't make it impossible to continue living the life we live now, right? We don't have the grid set up on the electric vehicle side. We don't have the grid set up. So it's going to be really important to make sure that all of those key components are in place prior to really pushing out some of these diesel generated trucks. And so our business will definitely change over the next decade or two. We are keeping an eye on what the industry is doing, what the decisions are there, and we will pivot and adjust as needed. I do see us growing our footprint. So we're only here in Northern California, there's a lot of opportunity. We have pockets of customers in other areas, so I would like to expand that. We do sell into all 50 states. We also bring equipment to the ports, and they'll go out of country. And so a lot of opportunity to grow and expand and really share some of the knowledge that's here.
Excellent. I know we had talked earlier and about the company's core values. And so when we're thinking about that vision and all this really exciting growth, I'm really excited for you. And I love your awareness of what's changing in the industry and how to work with your vision given those changes. But how do you take those core values of quality, service, and value and apply those towards your vision going forward?
Yeah, it's something we talk about quite often, especially in our management training and we have a monthly safety meeting with the whole team. So that the core values of quality, service, and integrity are in every decision we make, right? So making sure that we're doing the right thing and staying true to our word is very important to us. So making sure that we stand behind our equipment and that we're doing the right thing for the customers. Those are all so key in keeping us in business, right? These relationships that we've built over the last 60 years, they come back, they refer us to other people because we really do stand by our core values. So yeah, we're always talking about them, always keeping them in mind and making sure that we are treating everyone the same. Whether you are buying one truck or 20 trucks, whether you have a fleet of one, this is your first truck, or you have a fleet of 2,000 trucks. Everyone gets the same treatment when they come here. We answer the phone the same way. We do the deal the same way. There's no special treatment. So that's been really something that's been passed on to me. And I've been lucky to have, especially my father, to learn from. He's taught me so much and how you treat people and how your handshake deals. And that's what this business was built on is all of those core values. So making sure we continue to honor those and live by them so we can continue to be successful, right? That's a key component to the success that we've had.
Yeah, and it sounds, that's part of the multi-generational, family businesses, learning from those earlier generations. So speaking of learning from people, what are some of the roadblocks that you and your team have had, over the last couple of years, this is like in the business itself?
I would say the governmental regulations and some of the adjustments that have had to be made have probably been our biggest challenge. So, of course, for us, finding team members is tricky because of our location up in, we're in Northern California, we're in Sonoma County, we're in wine country, we're a high cost of living area. So, there's not a ton of housing. So that's all been tricky internally, trying to make sure that we can continue to have people who are working on the equipment, right, and able to do those jobs. And then on the governmental side, just pivoting as needed. There's a lot of equipment that can no longer be sold in the state of California due to the engine. And so that was a really rough time in the industry. I pushed a lot of these small guys out, which is really unfortunate because those are the guys that built this, built the state, have been keeping everything running. So some of that consolidation has been really interesting to watch as the bigger guys are eating up the smaller guys. And but we're trying to stay with current trends, making sure that we're staying in front of some of these obstacles that we're running into and just communicating about it and planning accordingly. And we'll, like I said, pivot and adjust as needed.
It sounds great. And you actually answered another one of my questions. So that was terrific. Tell me about one of your proudest moments you've had as general manager of this business.
So when I came on board, like I said, I was quoting and speccing new equipment and really overseeing some of that new sales side. And that was a really like I mentioned, tricky time, right? Because there's a lot to learn. I was new. I didn't know anyone. So I would go to trade shows. I specifically remember my very first trade show. You don't know anyone, right? I've never met most of these people, but everyone else knows everyone, right? Because the same people go to the trade shows year after year, over and over. So they've been going to the trade show together for 10, 20 years. So it was a really interesting moment having people come up and introduce themselves and getting to meet some of these people. And some of these customers that were coming up would tell me the history they have with Opperman Son and how they've always enjoyed working with either a family member or a sales team member. And, they used to, like my father, Mark, they used to go on buying trips with Mark, or they used to run into him at auctions, or my uncle Steve, they'd see Steve-O around because both of them used to just drive around to see customers, right? Back in the day, they would drive through California. I remember as a kid, we'd be driving to Seattle for a vacation, and we'd stop along the way and have to, we'd make pit stops to go see customers or go look at equipment. So it was really neat at this trade show because I got to hear so many of these stories, and the history it's different hearing it from customers, right? Some of these customers bought their very first truck from us, and now they've been in business for 60 years, the same as us, and they, are a fleet of 500 or 1,000 trucks. So all of that started with that one truck, right? And one particular customer said to me, the only reason our company truck colors are what they are is because the first truck we bought from you was this color, and we didn't want to paint it. So we just continued to paint all the rest of the trucks in the fleet that color. And now we're talking 500 plus trucks, right? So, growing hand in hand with some of those customers those stories they blow my mind that there's that much history there, right? So yeah, that's probably one of my proudest moments. I was just proud of all the work and the reputation that this company has built.
That's amazing. It's just really good to hear that, because it is so much, relationships are so much a part of what makes a business successful. And to hear that that's continuing over generations is really good. It's wonderful to hear. So a few more personal questions. So where you talked about where you grew up, what was it like growing up there, and what of the lessons that you learned in that community you've brought to how you do business now?
Yeah. So I grew up in Healdsburg, so we were a small town in Northern California in Sonoma County. So a lot of people know Napa County, right, because of the wine. So we're the sister on the other side of the hill, Sonoma County, which has become more popular over the last few years. And growing up, though, we were a small farming town, ag town, sleepy. Everyone knows everyone, right? So it has evolved with the tourism. Our food scene has actually evolved in amazing ways. We have an incredible food scene, of course, great food, wine, spirits, beer. So really more focused on that in this town, still with the agriculture aspects, of course, right? But a lot more high end than it was. So that's been a really interesting evolution that we have experienced here. I am fifth generation to Healdsburg. So that has been really fun because our family is still established here, and so many of us are still here. So I get to see cousins and aunts and uncles around town, right? I'll be riding bikes with my kids, and I'll see my grandmother at the coffee shop sitting in front of just having her morning coffee, sitting in front of the coffee shop. So that's always been really fun for me. But just growing up with those small town values, with the kind of exposure that you do, that everyone knows everyone, right? So you can't really get away with a whole lot. But it did teach me a lot about relationships and kind of having that moral foundation of being a good person and treating others with respect, right? So that is all really translated into the business and how the business is run, right? With the establishing relationships and, again, doing the right thing and being a good human, treating others how you want to be treated. So, yeah, it's been fun to grow up here. A lot of change, though.
Definitely, definitely. I think there's a lot of communities seeing that across the United States for one reason or other. Um, so who inspires you? Maybe talk about your mentors or people that you've received amazing advice from that has helped you moving forward.
That is a very good question and a hard one. I feel like I've had so many people that have inspired me and guided me along the way, and I'd probably narrow it down to two. So my dad is just this larger than life human. Everyone knows Mark. Everyone loves Mark. He's just a really solid person. He leads with his heart. He's firm but fair, and he really does embody our core values and helps translate them throughout the company. And so it's been really fun working with him most of the time. Sometimes it gets a little tricky, family business, but it's been really fun working with him and just learning from him and seeing how he goes about doing business, right? How he goes about building relationships, how he goes about making a deal, how he negotiates, how he deals with problems after the fact or during the deal, right? Just the way his mind works is so fascinating. And I've really enjoyed and been lucky to be able to learn from him throughout the last 14 years being here. And so that's been great. Also, I know we are on the Newport podcast, but this is not a sponsored answer by any means. But Kevin Poole has really been a huge support for me, a mentor. I mean, he just comes in with so much knowledge and expertise in all things business. The thing that I found most fascinating about starting to work with Kevin is Kevin didn't know anything about our business, right? He doesn't know anything about trucks or trailers or people in this world, right? But he didn't need to. And that's where, when I had worked with various consultants previously, they really tried to learn our business, which takes so much time. Whereas Kevin came in and he knew he didn't need to know all the ins and outs, right? That was our job to be the experts. His job was to take the core business foundations and make sure that all the wheels were turning correctly to achieve the growth we wanted, right? So that was really a fascinating thing for me because that was one of my frustration points with previous consultants. Yeah, so Kevin's just really been a trusted advisor. He has so much expertise, and he's really, we call them Kevin-isms here around the office, but one of them that I always try to remember is spend some time working on the business, not just in the business, right? Because I think that especially in the small businesses, you get so wrapped up in the day-to-day that you don't take time to step out and really get a high-level view of what is working and what's not working, right? And taking that time and using, he says, he'll always tell me, like, sometimes you have to use that other part of your brain, right? That's actually thinking about the business growth, right? Not just the day-to-day fires and more mundane tasks, right? So, so Kevin's been great to work with. So between the two of them, they have it all.
That's great. And I've been hearing that consistently with the podcast, is that it's really hard as a business owner or a CEO to focus on your business as opposed to just dealing with the day-to-day and being in it. And that's really what the job is as a leader of a company, of a business, of an organization, is to guide everyone and really be thinking about, how that business is going to grow. So the fact that you have an awareness of that, and have somebody who's guided you towards that, is really positive. So one more personal question. So what are some of the daily rituals that you do to stay strong, remain successful, keep yourself ready for, the challenges that come with running a business?
quite a few things that are necessary. I also have 2 small children, so it can be quite a juggle sometimes, as you know, having children and being a business professional. So one thing I like to do every morning is take some time to exercise. That's huge for me, for my mental health, for my physical health. Just doesn't matter what it is. I could lift some weights, I could go for a run, I could walk on my treadmill, whatever it is, just taking that 30-ish minutes to kind of push out the outside world and take some time just to focus on me, right? That has been huge. I also am a big fan of planning my day the night before. So I'll either before I leave the office or before I go to bed, I'll check over my calendar, I'll check my to-do list, I'll make sure everything's up to date. I have my top 3 to 5 things I need to take care of the next day that are my most high priority. And so that's been really great to keep me focused and not forget appointments too, because I often will have to set reminders on my phone that at 1:15, okay, I have a 1:30 meeting, so my reminder will go off, which has really helped me when you do get busy in your day-to-day, right? To have that like, oh, okay, yes, I can't be late for that meeting. I need to end this now so I can get to that next thing, right? So, so those are just some of the things that help me kind of keep my day running smoothly and keep me, the exercise especially, keeping me mentally sane.
Awesome. Great advice. I agree. Yeah, exercise very important. I do have one last question, but before I ask it, I want to point people to your website, Opperman Son. It is oppermansales.com, and we'll have this in the show notes as well so people can find you. Because obviously you guys are doing something very right with your business and really taking good care of your customers. So I'm sure there'll be people reaching out to you. So last question is, what's one hard lesson that you've learned about business that you would love to share with other business owners so that they can learn from it and hopefully avoid any issues?
Great question. There's been quite a few hard lessons that I've had to learn, just being new to this industry and being that 4th generation and huge learning curve. I would say this is probably the one that stands out the most though, and this happened around the time that I was having my first child, actually, my son William, and I realized when I needed to step back and take some time that I hadn't spent the time to build up a strong team around me, right? So I think that is the most important thing you can do as a business leader is really have a strong team that you trust, that you know will be able to step in and take care of things, that are going to lead in the same ways that you want them to lead, right? Like for me, making sure that they're embodying our core values when they are making decisions for the business when I'm not around, and being able to trust them to make those decisions. That has been huge. And surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you, right? You don't have to be fearful that you're not the smartest person in the room. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room, right? Everyone is going to bring in their own unique perspectives and their own expertise. And that is so critical for having a strong team, right? And to be able to have the growth that you want to have. And so, yeah, building a strong team, I think, is number one as a leader. And yeah.
This has been great. Thank you, Whitney. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Growth Plus Exit podcast. It was really a pleasure learning about you, your journey, your family's business, and your advice. I just so much. Thank you. I've been interviewing Whitney Opperman, the general manager of Opperman Son, on the Growth Plus Exit Business podcast. Thank you for listening, and thank you so much, Whitney.
Yeah, thank you very much, Heather. Appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to the Growth Plus Exit podcast, sponsored by Newport, a unique national business advisory firm. If you enjoy this show, be sure to share, like, and subscribe for future episodes.